Bénédicte, what is on the cards for Charles?
Well, an extraordinary banquet. The royal couple have arrived in the last 20 minutes. And it was interesting to see that the two first ladies clearly are both dressed in navy. Camilla is not wearing a tiara, a crown of any kind, which is interesting. And I've just been watching some of the coverage of a national news TV channel who are getting very excited about the 160 guests plucked from sports, academia, Hugh Grant, Mick Jagger, who presumably won't be mounting a table this evening in the Chateau de Versailles. It is quite an extraordinary mix of Franco-British personalities, of course, politicians as well, and two heads of state. But of course, President Macron is a very different head of state. Some have described the French system as monarchical, but the monarch in the room is indeed, of course, King Charles on his first state visit, but his 35th visit to France.
I'll always remember, actually, after the Queen died, Macron making that lovely statement saying to you she was your Queen, but to us she was the Queen. I thought it was really touching. How important is this for Macron? I mean, these state visits cost a fair amount of euros, don't they?
They cost a lot of money, as we know, because in the United Kingdom there are two state visits only a year. And this is decided, whether it's in France or in the UK, by the government of the day, and in close liaison in the UK example, that is the Foreign Office. Obviously, in France, it's the Ministère des Affaires étrangères, Foreign Affairs. And there are geopolitical reasons to that. But let's be very clear. You have two nations who are the two nuclear powers in Europe, two old allies, yes, sometimes rivalries, but who on a strategic level do a lot, far more than one would think if one is to read on a daily basis the British press. But there's much more defense, intelligence, cooperation, trade ties, cultural ties. It's very, very deep, and it's been long-standing. And of course, next year, there will be, as you no doubt know, the Entente Cordiale celebration, 120 years. And what we're seeing here is a lot of, yes, preparation. And of course, it's 6 months later than originally planned. So there's been even more preparation and time to prepare. And the fact that there's been a bilateral meeting at the Élysée between President Macron and Charles, and whether it's sustainable development, all those things, climate change. I'm sure Ukraine was discussed as well. But of course, in the same way that when King Charles has an audience, or some prime minister has an audience with him, it stays behind closed doors. I think what the two heads of state will have discussed, the great majority of that will stay behind closed doors, but hopefully continue to improve the relationships between France and the UK that were in such dire conditions under Boris Johnson and Liz Truss. Liz Truss, who didn't even know if President Macron was a friend or a foe.